Hi, my name is Abhishek Rai and I work for BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management product. Today I'm going to talk about searches and relationship traversal. During the demo activity, we'll talk about searches and relationship traversal. You can retrieve cloud object by using following method. For example, use the API pattern get and the resource will be /CSM class GeoID to retrieve a specific object. You can also use a API pattern get and the resources will be /CSM class GeoID relation plus to retrieve a relationship with a specific object. You can also use the API pattern post and the resources will be /CSM class search to retrieve object of a particular class. The search request API pattern accept either a fill fields or ignore fields parameters that you can use to specify which attributes and relationship to return. The request parameter, which is optional, contains a comma separated list of attributes or relation names. Each search request return a JSON document that contains the retrieve object. Let's take a look at an example. I'm going to use the SOAP UI to run the REST call, but you can use any REST client. And here's the resources. Under the resource, you can see /CSM virtual cluster, and I've given a GUID of that virtual cluster. /virtual host is one of the relationship of that virtual cluster. And in the parameters, I've given fill fields, and I'm only giving name, GUID, and host name. So in the result of this API call, I'm going to receive the name, GUID, host name of virtual host relation of that virtual cluster. So let's go ahead and click on the screen button. Again, the method is going to be the get. So if I go to JSON, here is the result section. You can see that the host name associated with that virtual cluster is this, and name is this. And I believe GUID was the other thing which I wanted to show in the result. So here is the GUID of that virtual host. So you can see that the request returns a JSON document that contains a list of virtual host objects where only the name, GUID, and then hostname attributes are present. Sometimes instead of enumerating the fields you want to view, you might prefer to enumerate the fields to ignore. That takes the form of ignore fields. So on the place of fill fields, you can use ignore fields, but you should never use ignore field parameter with a fill field parameter. In case you do not include a fill fields or ignore fields parameter, the resulting JSON document includes all attributes and greedy relationships. So let's take a look at the example of that. So I'm gonna use this one. So over here you can see under the resources I've got /CSM virtual cluster and then here the GUID of that virtual cluster. Let's click on the screen button. Okay, and switch to JSON. So over here you can see that is gonna give me all the relationship of that virtual cluster and other attributes. For example, here's the virtual guest list which is associated with this virtual cluster. Then I've got hosts in cluster. Then you've got cluster name there, and then data store, host, and other stuff. And here's the switch as well. Relationship traversal. The relationship defined within the API model enable you to perform bulk operation on cloud objects and to reference deeply nested cloud object with ease. The process of using relationship to navigate within your cloud structure is called relationship traversal, and this is what we have seen in one of the example. API patterns that involve relationships enable you to specify one relationship or a sequence of relationship. When a sequence of two or more relationships is specified in an API request, the software steps through each named relationship in turn until it reaches the end of the sequence, and which we saw in one of the example. I hope this video was informative for you, and I would like to thank you for watching this.